I really don't like having to speak up about how harmful your assumptions are. How people are so selfish that when you're trying to tell them about abuse that you're going through, they want to make it a personal insult against them. Primarily, these are people who are schizophrenic or people who are on drugs or both. When you don't have friends or family who are good people, kind of sucks. There's a big difference between being a nice person and a good person. You want to push on somebody your niceness, a bunch of stuff that makes my life worse. And when I try to explain it to you, you want to talk over me like I'm fucking stupid. When it comes to communication, what's the difference between somebody who has been in a recent traumatic experience, such as somebody who has literally just been raped, or literally just been in a fight, been attacked, been robbed? You're going to have communication issues with those people if you assume that they're a drug addict. The problem is that the communication issues are very similar. See, when you have been through a traumatic experience, you're expected to have no emotions. Well, you are at a heightened emotional level. So many people want to volunteer. I need you to understand. I need you to hear my story. I'm not telling you my story so you can fix every little thing that I'm telling you. That is literally impossible. We're not getting anywhere. We're wasting so much time. I've got videos with, I want to say, altogether about 8 people who, when I try to explain to them, would you please stop changing the subject and trying to tell me all of your crazy cockamamie ideas about fucking revenge. Stop that. I will not trust you, and you will not understand and respect that one simple thing. Stop. If you're going to tell me that you're going to help me by listening to my story and looking at evidence and help turning it in, that's what I need you to do. I'm not asking you to do a whole bunch of other things on top of that. When it comes to the point where I'm having to ask you to do extra things because of the things that you've been pushing on me, I'm going to give you a bunch of examples here. Not out of spite, not out of revenge, not to kick this person who does want to help me in the teeth. And I'm going to give you the examples of they're trying to be nice. They're trying to show me that they're a nice person. They have issues with socialization, obviously, and some of the things that this person says are entirely inappropriately worded, but their intention comes through. But then there's the impulsiveness. I don't do things impulsively. Before I do something you might want to call impulsive, I have had to carefully calculate the situation. The help that I have, what do they do when I go to them? When, for example, there's a situation with Andrew Wolnez, or with people making fake accounts to harass me or threaten me or pretend to be people that they're not. I mean, this is the screwed up thing, okay? Andrew Wolnez, since I got out of jail, Andrew Wolnez has been as much of a victim of these internet predators as I have. And this isn't from sneaking into Andrew Wolnez's life. No, these internet predators are very blatant about it. And I am saving the evidence of this, that they keep doing this. They want to tag my YouTube profile, and then they want to tag Andrew Wolnez's profile. They're trying to stir up the mud. Now, I need somebody to take a look at this. Instead of treating me like it's a paranoid delusion, I need them to look at it and verify that it's true. That's the thing. Once you're called mentally ill, you could have two mentally ill people that try to turn it in together. You can have that. But not two mentally ill people when one of those mentally ill people is going to go off on some cockamamie thing that's fucking crazy and batshit goddamn bonkers. When you have to worry that, yes, this person might be able to hold themselves together most of the time and force themselves to come across as somewhat seemingly normal. You know, a lot of drug addicts have to try to do that. A lot of alcoholics have to try to do that. And a lot of people with mental issues have to try to do that. You have to try to fit in. We're often beaten as children for not being normal. We're getting beaten up at school because we're weird. You know, you're in grade school and you're having to hear from a whole bunch of grade school kids who are going to target you. When they pick somebody that they're going to bully a whole bunch, they're going to pick you because you're the one that's weird. And no matter how hard you try to be normal, you're just weird. What was weird about me is that I had to try to make friends in some pretty messed up places. Now, I'm going to read something to you real quick, and this is hopefully going to help you to understand why it is that I have broken the law and admitted it. Not only did I break the law, I made sure that I was public about it because I had to do it. I made sure that I went public as to why, because none of my friends would look at any of this stuff. To this day, that's the very same issue. So there's this fella, he's real nice. And about 6 months ago, he wanted to be nice and give me a handy chair that doesn't work. I get so many people that give me things that, you know, I can't turn it down, right? Like if I try to explain to them that I can't, I'm going to get a half an hour explanation of why I should. I don't need you to be a salesman for all of your ideas. I really don't need that, and I can't work on all of that, okay? I have to find somebody who will look at evidence and hear my side. So 6 months ago, he gives me this thing, and I immediately afterwards, there was a bunch of stuff put in between the tiny, tiny trail, in between this handy chair and the sidewalk, so I couldn't work on it. And this is literally right after I bought the stuff that he assumed what was wrong with it and told me what he assumed was wrong with it or thought was wrong with it, you know. And he's really pushing this, and I'm overwhelmed with him pushing this. This is why I invested the money to go down and buy the stuff to fix this handy chair that he thinks is going to help me, because he's decided that's the fix for my problems. It's not the fix for my problems. It's more stuff on top of me being overwhelmed. I can't function because I'm overwhelmed and fucking scared. Okay, please don't add more to it. So he gave it to me for free, you know, and that's nice. It doesn't work, and I'm going to have to figure out what's wrong with it. If the thing that ended up being wrong with it isn't the same thing that he thought was wrong with it. So the stuff that I bought to try to fix it wasn't going to work anyway. So I wasted a lot of time and money. And I it had finally agreed to try to do this because he wanted to talk me into this. This is it's a gift, and I can't take this gift. It's not doing me any good. But I'm only doing this to try to appease him. Okay, this is something that he wants to do. This is something that he's going to give it to me, and I can fix it, and then I can use it. Okay. So now I got to buy tools so that I can fix it. Okay, it's going to take I got to find out if it's metric or if it's standard, but I literally can't even get back there. So in order to get the tools that I got in storage, I got to get it right out of storage because I am dependent on others. Okay, so it's either metric or standard. I don't know which. I'm spending time to try to do this because this is his hot topic. This is the stuff that he's interested in. This is well, you guys know autistic people. When they start talking about something that you are fucking so completely bored about, you just don't care. Or you've got so many things on your plate, you literally can't try to actually listen to all of this technical jargon, okay? Get to the goddamn point. Please, when I tell you I don't understand any of that, all of that stuff that you're saying, I don't understand it. That doesn't mean try to explain it to me more until I get it, okay? There's a difference between technical jargon and me asking you something that any human being should be able to understand. Did this fucking video that I'm being treated like it doesn't exist and like it's a delusion, does this video exist? Yes? All right, good. Now we need to look at the evidence of all of the people who said that this was a schizophrenic delusion. Can you do that? Yes? Good, let's do that. But if there's a video that exists that shows somebody punching me in the head and I'm getting treated like it's a delusion, do you look at the video and recognize that I am punched in the head? Can you do that? Like, I have to make it that blunt because people want to make it that complicated, that overly complicated. When people are wanting an update, people who could make a call that takes about 20 minutes, okay? For 6 months, they're wanting updates on the progress that I'm making, getting my money back so that they're not stuck with me, basically. So that I'll be able to use that money to actually help myself. They do want me to be able to have that money. But also, I don't have anyone making those calls with me. And when I ask these people, it's a non-committal answer. And as an adult, you need to understand that a non-committal answer is a no. That is what it means. Now, I understand if you're in a very desperate situation and you're being harmed and people, let's say you were just physically assaulted or somebody literally just tried to murder you, okay? Let's say you just narrowly escaped being fucking killed and you're calling up one of your friends and you've got traffic in the background, you've got sirens off blaring for the ambulance or whatever, you're stuck in a shitty situation, there's a lot going on around you, it is a very loud environment, you're having problems hearing the sound of your own voice, and you have to call up a friend for help. And they want to run through a gamut of questions that they're trying to dig for excuses why they don't have to be a friend. Well, don't you have anyone else to go to? There's also the fact that they're going to try to abuse your situation that they're not going to find out anything about. They're just going to throw it on you that you're a bad person because you're yelling or your voice is elevated. Why is your voice elevated? Is your voice elevated because you're a tweaker who wants somebody to listen to a whole bunch of stuff? a bunch of offers, a bunch of things that you've decided are going to fix it. And it's not just tweakers. I mean, there are a lot of people who are just stuck on that tunnel vision. They say that they're going to help you. They promise to help you the way that you need. And you have told them the way that you need is for them to stop putting more on you. Stop trying to fix problems until you understand the full issue. And I explained to this feller repeatedly, as I've done in many places, and I'm telling you about one of my ideas because you want to have a conversation about your ideas. When you see me, you wanna tell me about a bunch of ideas that you had and on stuff that's unrelated to my issues, right? And if it's something that I have an interest in, then I'll have a conversation with you about it. But also, when you ask about my stuff and you decide that you're gonna surprise me with a gift, I don't have the space for any gifts. I buy what I need. The tools that I have are for fixing the things that I need to fix, regardless of my disabilities, without somebody else understanding that without turning in this stuff, I'm not going to get the help that I need. Without somebody recognizing that I'm being denied all of these services, that I am being harmed over things that I didn't do. But they've got special projects and special ideas and their own routine that they like to do. Some routines are, maybe your special thing is you like to go rummaging through antique houses, or you might want to go walking the beach and pulling clams. Your hobby might be, collecting dolls, or it might be making miniature trains. And sure, people are going to make fun of you for that, but there's a difference between making fun of you for that and bullying you for that. I'm not going to try to bully people for their special interests or their hobbies. I'm not going to try to pretend that because somebody is into fixing antique firearms, that it means that they're out to murder everybody. I'm not going to pretend that because somebody owns an axe or a chainsaw, that they're out to chop up their neighbors. Are you insane? How many people in America own chainsaws right now at this moment? Now I want you to do the math between that number there and the number of people who are murdered by chainsaw every year. Did you buy a chainsaw to murder your neighbor? Because if you're going to insinuate that somebody who owns a chainsaw is out to murder people because they own a chainsaw, maybe you should go to your garage and see if you own a chainsaw. So when I'm having to deal with my predators pretending to be fucking schizophrenics, like, for example, Robert Franklin Mornick in Chapel, Nebraska, wants to pretend that because I walk a route that I have walked since I was 15 years old, in between Pump and Pantry and 890 First Street, which used to be my mother's house. After Natalie was killed, I knew people at that house. But he wanted to pretend that I was... This is a guy who came out into the street and fucking threatened to kill me for no reason. All right? He'd seen the Natalie Bollinger stuff. His excuse was that he heard a rumor that I was after him. Like, this is some fucking paranoid delusional bullshit out of a fucking alcoholic. And meth addicts are exactly the same. This is why you need to understand that forcing disabled people to go to disabled people or drug addicts doesn't work. There's also the power and control issue with many people. A lot of folks, when they have already concocted a solution out of not hearing you. They've already decided that they don't actually need to look at any of your evidence. They don't actually need to help you to turn it in like they said that they would. They know the fix. They know exactly what you need, and they're going to push that on you instead. And take a look back through how many people, instead of the most simple things, the things that they agreed to do, what is it that they agreed to do? Why is it that I am literally offering them money? Some of these people, I have offered them money to leave me alone. I offered people at one point $100 a piece to stop interrupting me to try to tell me all of their great ideas. I'm going to show you evidence of literally hundreds of people telling me to do exactly the same thing that you're telling me to do, okay? Now, that's what I need you to focus on. But now you're too busy feeling insulted. This is your paranoia at that point. You are too busy feeling insulted as if I'm going out of my way to make you feel like a bad person because you made a mistake. No, that's not it. I'm trying to get you to recognize that I'm being harmed over people making those exact same assumptions instead of looking at evidence. Them getting crack-minded in their solutions and forcing it upon me. Eating up so much time, making things worse for me than literally the people who are threatening to kill me. It makes perfect sense why the people who are threatening to kill me are going out of their way not to understand. Why it is that they're trying to take little bits and pieces and twist it into something that it ain't. That makes perfect sense. It makes absolutely no sense for the person who says they're going to help you to do this. Now, out of all of the people who offered to help me, Shannon Alvarado was the worst at this. You can't say half of a sentence with her without her running off in her own head with some cockamamie crazy bullshit, and she literally doesn't hear any of the details beyond that. She doesn't hear anything you're saying. This is an alcoholic and tweaker problem for the most part, but also somebody who has been through a traumatic experience. Yes, there is a reason that that traumatic experience is live in their head. It literally just happened. Now, that traumatic experience might be the fact that they were just fucking raped. Like the situation with Teresa Macelia. That problem might also be that she had to try to physically fight off her attacker and he still succeeded. That traumatic experience might be that she went to the police and tried to tell them what was happening. And they treated her completely like shit. And then arrested her for assault. Imagine how much different it would have been if that trusted person that she allowed into her life, if she had known that he was going to rape her like that, before she was going to come here to Oregon, she was going to get on a plane to come here to Oregon, and she was saying goodbye to her friend. What a horrible experience. The reason I bring it up is because she's a victim of the exact same officers. Not just the same jurisdiction, not just the same city, not just the same department, exact same officers. The situation now is that when I try to tell him about some of my projects, because he's asked, You know, he's got his own projects, and he wants to stop me when he sees me and tell me about his projects or ask about stuff, and I try to answer his questions. But there's also the fact that I really do need to work on this stuff, and I have to find somebody who's going to look at evidence and turn it in with me, not make me make the phone calls by myself, not go off on a tangent of 30 other things when you said that you were going to hear my story and look at evidence. So then there was a power strip thing, and I have power strips, but he wanted to give me a power strip, and his power strip doesn't work. 3 of the uh, things in it don't work. So then there's this thing with the power strip, and he wants to keep on bringing up the power strip, the power strip, the power strip. And when I let him know that I already have power strips, I literally have 3 power strips in here that are mine. But I can't explain that to him because he's already got it in his head about these power strips, and he's already got a solution. I don't need a solution. I've already provided myself with a solution. Okay, he gave me this broken power strip like 3 months ago, 4 months ago. I went out to storage and got my power strips. I've got multiple power strips. I've got more power strips than I need, but he's also bringing me more stuff. I needed to get rid of the power strip that he gave me because it's taking part, more clutter, more friggin' when I go through these piles of electronic gadgets and gizmos and all this other stuff, I'm having to dig through twice as much because people keep wanting to give me stuff, and most of the stuff they're giving me is broken, and they're trying to show me that they're trying to be nice. No, I need you to stop giving me broken shit. That's not difficult to understand. Stop trying to give me solutions. Then when they say that they're going to stop and they're actually going to listen. Like last week, for example, this feller said that he was multiple times he understood he was going to stop giving solutions and ideas, and I needed to explain to him the harm that comes from those ideas. Okay, not just the idea itself, but the sheer quantity of work that they're making for all of us. Now, what I needed to show him is that people keep doing that, but I can't show him that people keep doing that. And that right there is the reason that the people who are supposedly going to help me aren't helping. They're too busy with their assumptions. I need them to look at evidence instead of assume. I need them to stop frustrating me by continually interrupting me to tell me about how, well, you see how my idea was such a good idea? You know what? No, your idea was not a good idea. And I'm not trying to interrupt you all the time to tell you that, because you will take it as an insult and you say that you won't. But every time I try to bring it up so that you will understand. All right. First, what are we supposed to do when there's an issue with with our family or our friends, and we care about them and we are trying to fix it? We're supposed to go to them and we're supposed to tell them what the problem is. Just like when we're supposed to go to a bully, we're supposed to go to our bully and tell them how what they're doing makes us feel, or how it's harming us. When you say, oh, he looks like a pedophile, he looks like a pedophile, and people are physically assaulting me because what they heard is he's a pedophile. And you think that's okay. You say this just as an insult to people, just to insult them. Well, you look like a pedophile. So looks are important to so many of you. You don't care that people are physically assaulting me now because you were just trying to be insulting. And I want you to know that when I was a kid, people did the same thing. Before any of us had sex drives, before any of us really knew what sex was, except those of us who had been raped or molested, okay? And for those of us who had been raped and molested, that's just gross. But little kids on the playground calling other kids pedophiles. Like, holy shit, where did these kids learn this stuff? They learned it from their parents. Oftentimes, you've got a parent who wants to call another parent a pedophile, but, they want to do it in secret. They don't want the kids to hear it because they don't want anybody hearing the kids say in the background, that's not true. That's not true. Then, of course, there's the manipulation by the predator to try to prevent the victim from coming forward. Where you got a sister and your dad says, oh, well, if you tell on me for raping you, I'll just have to do it to your sister, or I'll harm your sister, or I'll hurt your sister, or all sorts of screwed up shit. Or when she does tell him, there's, of course, still access because officers don't take it seriously. Often by that point, she's had to cut on herself to try to get heard. That's why she's cutting on herself. Not because she has suicidal ideations. People aren't just suicidal for no fucking reason. Most of the people that I know who have told me that they're on medications because they're suicidal, all right, have ultimately told me that the reason that they're suicidal is because they were abused. And when they tried to get help, the people that they were sent to for help abused them, just like they did with Teresa and Celia. And many of them, they use those excuses that people who were supposed to help them did that to them as their excuse for doing it to me. Well, that don't hold water. That's like saying it's okay for you to rape your kids because your dad raped you. No, that doesn't fucking work. That is not a valid goddamn excuse. Are you fucking insane? And I try to get these people to listen to reason because they're running with assumptions. They're running with a half-cocked idea. So this feller brings me a super long power strip. I tell him that I have a bunch of power strips I don't need anymore. But he wants to give me another power strip that's like 6 feet long. And I've already got more power strips than I can handle. What I need to be able to do is now, with all of the free stuff that people have been giving me, all of the stuff that I needed to be able to do and organize and fix and get done, I'm dealing with people's opinions of what I should have been doing the whole time. Things that they were preventing me from doing by giving me free stuff that I was nice about. I had to be nice about accepting things that I didn't need. Because repeatedly saying, I don't have a lot of space to work with, but they've got all of these ideas, and their ideas take a lot of work, and they're not getting that. All of their ideas they take a lot of work. And when you're a disabled person like me, who's got nerve damage like me, who has problems standing up and sitting down like me, yeah, you're taking something that to you, who is able and healthy enough that you can do these things in 20 minutes, it's going to take me 2 or 3 days. But also, when you're continually bringing me stuff and bringing me gifts, because you decided, because we talked about something that you're interested in, that now you're going to bring me a bunch of stuff that I'm asking you, you know, to stop, and you say, okay, you'll stop, and then the next time you're bringing me more stuff, and I tell you, I'm having to try to pay somebody to help me to move things that you're bringing me out of here. I'm having to pay somebody to do that so that I can do what I was doing originally before you started bringing me free stuff and forcing free stuff onto me. All right. Forcing something onto me is not okay. I get that you found a solution for my problem that you think is going to fix it, but no, it's not. You're adding more problems. And if I explain that, you're taking either an insult to it or getting defensive for whatever reason. I need you to listen to my explanation instead of just assuming again and doing the same thing. Because at this point, there's so many things that I was brought. I was brought a refrigerator that's eating up space. He keeps telling me about these power strips so I can plug in all of these electronics that he wants to bring me that are going to fix all of my issues. No, stop. I need to be able to organize my stuff. I need to be able to walk in and out of here without picking up 25-pound bags of sugar. I need to be able to get into the backyard and get the stuff that is now cluttering all the way around this thing, because there's a bunch of stuff that he keeps bringing me that's preventing me from even getting to the stuff that I need to get to. There's no way for me to get to the things in here with all of this stuff piled up. And I was continually trying to explain that to him, but he didn't want to listen to the explanation. Kind of like when other people are doing this to me. They're doing exactly the same thing. They've got an idea that'll fix it, and they're going to push it on me, whether it's physical things, or whether it's a bunch of ideas of phone calls of places that I can call. How about stop? I've already done all of this. How about second guessing all of my work? Yeah, go ahead. Keep on doing that. What you're doing is making me feel like shit, because I'm literally trying to show you who I've called. I'm telling you who I've called, and you are repeatedly interrupting me. That is not only disrespectful, that is harmful. So when I ask you to stop doing it, and then we get to that same point in the story and you do it again, after telling me that you understand and you don't need an explanation because you already understand. When I try to explain autism and you tell me about this autistic person that you know, and tell me that you understand. No, you understand maybe a little bit about that person. And many of these people want to continue to bring up their autistic person that they know who is not me. And the assumptions that they tell me that they don't have, oh, I don't think like that. Well, steadily throughout all of it, eventually it comes out that that is exactly how they think of their retarded friend. Because that is what their friend is at this point. They've, at that point, already shown me many examples with me of how they're going to treat me like I'm retarded because of their retarded friend. And then they're going to tell me stories of their retarded friend. They're comparing me to their retarded friend. That's what they're doing. Is their friend actually retarded? Probably not. But that is the delusion that this person has in their head, or the bias that they hold in their head. Their actions show that they think this person is retarded. The words that you have coming out of your mouth are actions. When the words coming out of your mouth let you know that you've already decided that you don't want to listen to somebody and you're just being polite. No, you don't care about that person. You're just being polite. When you want to give them a bunch of stuff because you're trying to show them that you're nice, that's self-gratification that you get when people say thank you. I get that. I understand that. I'm not helping you for thanks. When you tell me that your life is in danger, I'm not helping you for thanks. I'm helping you because I don't want you dead. But when your help is the self-gratifying type, where I need your help stopping abuse, including people who may very well kill me on your fucking property even. You need to look at the videos of these people telling me that they're going to kill me. You need to listen to their excuses why. You need to know that these are not delusions. No, not believe me. So many people they want to do it the short way and then eventually ignore the short way even to go entirely their route. And Vicky Rain did this. So many people did this. I mean, the solution is simple. When this happens, I go to a friend or family member right away. It is assumed that a friend or family member would know what's going on, would understand the importance of it, and when you call them, turn it in right away. But none of my friends understand the importance of it because they're too busy either A, talking over me with 1,000,001 excuses why they can't fucking even listen, telling me for hours on the phone that they don't have time, they don't have time, they don't have time. Meanwhile, that entire time on the phone, you're being basically used as their therapist. Then when I have to tell about the abuse that I'm going through, which includes the situation with people saying that they're going to listen and then they make it therapy time, or they want to compare me with others over and over and over again. Oh, well, I know this friend. I have this friend. Oh, I know all about autism. At the beginning, it's, oh, I know your people are smart. Your people are smart. Then later on, they want to throw a bunch of fucking stuff at me that is very specifically about low functioning autistic people, primarily people who can't talk, can't change their clothes, and shit themselves. And I do mean that literally. They don't want to listen. They want to throw their ideas at you. They don't want to hear. They don't take the time to hear that you've already done those things. They also, when you do, have to talk over them to explain to them, hey, let me tell you the reality of what you're explaining to me that you are expecting me to do. After what you said that you would do is look at evidence and turn it in with me. You said you would hear my story. And then you want to interrupt me to say, well, what can I do to help? And I am literally telling you half a dozen times that what you can do to help is listen, to understand, look at evidence, and turn it in. And they've eaten so much time with giving me more stuff. And now, not being able to get to my things for over a week. It actually ended up being 2 weeks. And then the other day he said again that he understands and he's going to stop bringing me stuff. And then this morning he told me that he understands and he's going to stop giving me stuff. But also he informed me that all of the things that he said that he understood, and he was going to stop pushing that he was going to look at the evidence. He's making it impossible. He could literally sit down with me right here, right next to me right now and do that. Okay. The one time that he actually tried to do that, it was raining like a motherfucker. And there was an issue with that because it was raining. But every single time since then, when it's not raining, when I say, hey, you can literally sit down next to me and we can look at it. The problem that we had that one time, we're not having at this very moment. We are not having that problem right now. We have the opportunity right this moment to do the things that you said that you were going to do instead of continually putting your ideas on me. But then, of course, this morning, the same scenario, except that he had ghosted me for 2 days. He had told me several days before he was going to look at the evidence and make a call with me the next day. And that didn't happen. He didn't come and look at the evidence. Instead, he had a bunch of his own ideas that he did. And then I tried to explain it to him again, but he wanted to interrupt because he understands. Yesterday, instead of interrupting to tell me his whole story of how he understands again, he cut it off shortly, trying to say things that he felt would let me know that he's not going to do that anymore. Okay, well, instead of interrupting me at the same point to give me a long-winded story, you're now interrupting me at that same exact spot to tell me that you're not going to do what you were doing previously. And then I got to start over and try again. Now, when they're doing this, it becomes a situation where I'm getting frustrated because the listening thing is definitely, you said that you'd listen and you said you understood, and how here you are not listening. Here I'm asking you not to waste a bunch of time when what I need you to do is look at evidence. All right, instead of running off on all of this stuff from your assumptions, from interrupting me halfway through what I was saying, when you said that you were going to stop doing that, and then you did it a dozen more times. Well, literally half a dozen more times. It was like 6 more times. And that's the total incidents altogether, not the total number of times in each of those instances that he wanted to go right back to that. He's got his tunnel vision, and his tunnel vision is the thing that he says he's not going to do. But literally within 30 seconds, he's doing exactly that. He says he's going to stop interrupting me. And then at exactly the same point where he was interrupting me before, to say that, to go off on, his skepticism and all of this other stuff. That's why I'm asking you to fucking look at the evidence, because when you're treating me with that skeptical bullshit, after you've told me that you'll look at the evidence, and I've spent the time to go through stuff that is very traumatic for me. Being assaulted is very traumatic for me. Having to go to people for help who promise they're going to help, and, they're not following the instructions. I'm not able to get them to look at the instructions or read the instructions, and I later on during the day, if I go along with his special projects, this is what it amounts to, is that he's been working on his special projects, and he's halfway through several of them. He also tried to blame me because the situation where he didn't have a way to communicate, wasn't on time, wasn't out there. It's a bunch of situations where it's, by out there, I mean out at the vehicle. It's locked up. I don't have access to that. He wants to have all these ideas for fixing stuff now that he's brought all of this stuff to pile on me, and he wants to give me more, and he's telling me he wants to give me more. So we're going to pile it into another vehicle, and now I'm getting all of my stuff spread all over the place, and I'm also getting more free stuff I have no space for. So now I'm having to mentally think about how I'm going to deal with all of these extra things that he said he was going to stop doing, and telling me that he's going to do. Now he's going to show me that he's going to do these things, which he said last week. And I said, I don't need you to show me that you're going to do these things. Okay? I don't need you to show me that you're going to do the things that aren't helpful, that I'm trying to explain to you why they're not helpful, that I have to turn in, that other people, instead of listening to me and looking at evidence and turning it in with me, they made the same suggestions that you are. They wanted to interrupt me and show an extreme amount of disrespect by doing so. Now, when he tells me that he's acknowledged that he understands, he acknowledges that pushing all of this stuff is, and giving me all of this stuff, it's eating up space, that the ideas that I am agreeing to because he won't stop trying to convince me and sell it to me, instead of listening to why I'm doing it myself my way. There's a specific reason. There's a reason I don't buy 25-pound bags of sugar when I've already got a bunch of clutter in here from stuff that people keep giving me. Some of that stuff, if it gets rained on, it's going to get ruined. It's not going to be usable. So I'm not able to get to all of this stuff, to do the things that I need to do to help myself, because other people are trying to provide help I don't need. They're telling me they understand that this isn't helping. And then, of course, they're pushing we're going to do it my way, after saying that they're not going to force me to do that anymore, that they understand that it is a forceful thing. But then when, like, for example, when he says, all right, well, we'll do this office thing so that you don't have to deal with the rain. Okay, well, you said that 3 weeks ago. The thing with the cart was months ago. And then he wants to do that and the cart and a bunch of other stuff while I'm trying to work on this stuff. And then he's wanting my tools so that he can work on it. This is his special project. And he wants to do this thing with the door that he keeps bringing up over and over and over again. So finally I tell him, okay, you can do whatever you want with the door, just to appease him. He kept on saying, it's not for you, it's for me. It's to make me feel better. It's so that I can do this. And he's pushing this on me, that he's trying to do this thing to be nice. And I'm asking him to stop. It's preventing me from being able to do what I need to. And me trying to be nice by accepting help that I don't need, accepting help that is eating up time. I need him to understand that I tried to explain to him before he did all of this stuff that that's not what I needed him to do. I needed him to listen to understand, not to fix it. So please listen to understand, not to fix it. And when you say you understand that I need you to understand, not to fix it, and then you literally go right back to that tunnel vision thing you said that you wouldn't do in lieu of looking at the evidence or hearing my story. Or when you say, when we're out doing something that you want to do, and these aren't things that I necessarily would like to do, but when he offers to give me rides to places, and then there's the things that he wants to do that he's going to do on his errands, and we agree that we're going to do them all together, and I offer him money. He says he doesn't need money. I don't need to give him money. But then when it comes time to actually implement it, he shows his intentions through his actions. We're not going to do any of the stuff that I need to do. We're going to an auto parts store to get batteries. Now, I only agreed to this auto parts store to get batteries because he, even after saying he wouldn't come off of it, he still wouldn't come off of it. When he said he wouldn't continue it to interrupt me, he understood. So he was going to stop interrupting me to tell me about this, what do they call it? Handy cart. It's a little mobile chair scooter. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of investment. It's a lot of money. And I'm literally dependent on you to get the batteries, which is what the issue was, to put in it. And, this is also all stuff that I don't need that. I don't need that. I don't need that. And I try to explain to people that the help that they're trying to provide me is not help that I need. They're trying to fix problems I don't have. When you're coming up with solutions to problems I don't have, you're not looking at the evidence or hearing my story. So over the last 2 days of being ghosted, I want to show you this here box of evidence. So there's this bag here, and the most important stuff out of here, because he wanted to continue to tell me that I didn't need to go to somebody else. He wanted to volunteer to do the printing. It was literally 2 full days of, because it's not just printing, it also has to be organized according to who it needs to go to. I mean, this is the evidence that I got from, for example, this pile here is from Care Incorporated. The other stuff that's in this bag is, for example, I'm being told that I have to print this stuff out. I've already done that. I'm being told over and over and over again to do things that I have been doing. But I'm doing it without the help that I need. I'm doing it while I'm having to deal with people being pushy and pushing things onto me, even after they've agreed to stop doing so and understand that we're going to start off from a clean slate that starts with hearing my story and looking at the evidence. We've already agreed that you understand that to stop pushing those things and stop investing a bunch of time in those things. He already said that he got a bit overwhelmed with that. Well, of course he did. We need to make a checklist. That's what we're doing. We're making a checklist of the issues before we start throwing a bunch of ideas out there. There's a reason we're making a checklist. Once you understand what the issues are, then you're not going to be suggesting something over and over and over again that doesn't work. Now, instead of arguing with me, once you've seen the evidence that it doesn't work, it makes sense. But I can't show you the evidence that this stuff doesn't work while you're busy trying to take it as personal insult because you're not looking at the evidence. And none of these people want their names in public. I get that. None of these people want their phone numbers in public, and I get that. The reason the people's numbers and names ended up in public is because through all of their 10 million ideas and 10 million reasons why they couldn't give a shit about me being assaulted at the time that it happened, I'm overwhelmed with that. Then, of course, I'm supposed to go to a friend or family member when these situations happen, and there were multiple situations that happened last night. And again, he's not looking at the evidence. He blew that off completely because he had a bunch more ideas. And also, there's the stuff that he had agreed that he was going to stop trying to push. He wanted to tell me about all of his progress on those things and tell me how I should have done those things. And I'm like, I'm doing what you're asking, but on the times that you set aside for working on this, you make it difficult or impossible to reach you. If you're going to disappear every time that it's time to look at evidence and hear my story, then I'm not going to believe you. There gets a point where every time that that's what you're going to do, you ghost me. And then you're going to come back and all of your ideas that you already claim that you understood are overwhelming me that you're doing it, you're going to do yet again. And when I say I need you to look at this stuff and pay attention to it, and the one time that you come to actually sit down and look at the evidence with me, like you said that you would, you're doing exactly that same thing. And then you're wanting to look on your phone for an auto trader thing for cars, and you're wanting to talk about all sorts of car auctions and a bunch of other stuff. And please stop. Please stop. When I'm telling you that the time that you're eating up of mine is preventing me from doing the things that I need to do for myself, and that the stuff that you're bringing me is preventing me from doing things for myself, you're not letting me know that you understand by continuing to do those exact things. When even by the time I am able to convince you to spend the time to sit down and look at evidence, you're spending that time dozing off or trying to show me cars. I'm trying to tell you important stuff, and you're like, how about this car? What about this one? Today, what I had to try to explain to him is this is what we need to work on. This is what I'm asking you for help with. This right here is what I'm asking you for help with. Now, he's got the recording of the situation because I couldn't get my stuff working. Part of the reason that I couldn't get it working is because I had to stop what I was doing because he wouldn't stop talking. And I have to explain to him over and over again, I can't work on this while you're talking at me. I literally can't. The reason that I'm not showing you evidence or working on what I need to is because you're talking. I'm focused on you talking. The difference between you talking to me is that I have to stop what I'm doing and give you that attention, and that's exactly what I do every time. When I get frustrated, and it's a desperate situation, and it's the one time that I don't do that, then you're going to throw it at me like that's what I do to you every time, and that's not it. You are stuck on your tunnel vision crap. The one-track mentality, you are stuck on that. You're stuck on the illusion of helping me. Your assumption of what helping me means. So today, just like the last time that we went, it was a situation where we weren't going to go to any of the places that I needed to go to get my stuff and take care of it myself. We were going to go to the places that he wanted to go. To do specifically when it comes to the help that I need and the help that he wants to provide, and this is the one that he's going to set on the back burner. Now he's going to keep on arguing with me, and that's what it is. He wants that to be the fix-it. So many people, it's not about helping me to turn in the abuse. It's about they want their ideas to be the one that fix it. So what am I supposed to do in that situation? Try to manipulate them into thinking that it was their idea to go to the police and show the police that evidence? You shouldn't have to manipulate somebody into doing that. Then when somebody says that they're going to do that and you have to record just in case of, for example, situations where obviously for literally 10 years of listening to people talking about hurting people instead of listening to my story, then they want to get angry when I record them doing that after I've asked them to stop and told them a dozen times that I'm having a mental breakdown over you doing that. And then they want to interrupt me to tell me, oh, well, I'm only saying that because, and I don't need your explanation. Like when somebody slaps you on the ass and you tell them, I'm not comfortable with you slapping me on the ass. And they want to have an argument. That's what it is. They want a whole big, long explanation of why it is that you don't want them to touch your ass. But they're not going to let you answer the questions. They're going to grill you as if slapping you on the ass when you said no is somehow an okay thing to do, and you should let them do it. They're trying to help you by slapping you on the ass. You should feel more comfortable with them because they slapped you on the ass. Now, the fact that you have to make analogies like that, because when you tell them the reality of a situation or ask them to look at the evidence of the situation, they still don't care about the consequences. When I tell them the consequences are I'm eating up a lot of time and I am fucking overwhelmed with you volunteering to do shit. And all of the stuff that took you forever, when I'm telling you that stuff took a really, really, really long time to do, and it is not the help that I need, you're investing a lot of time in not helping me. Regardless of your intentions, I've heard your intentions. You told me your intentions last time, and I told you it needs to go on the back burner. So then you ghost me for 2 days, and you tell me that you've halfway done some of this stuff, and you want to make the same suggestion that we go into the office and you want to give me a computer bag, and this is all stuff that, can we stop? We already agreed, hey, if we're going to start over from scratch, we need to start over from scratch, not with you trying to go back to throwing these suggestions that we already agreed you're going to stop. These suggestions that I only agreed to begin with because you wouldn't stop pushing that instead of listening. If I do the things that you want, will you listen then? No, you won't. When I tell you, please stop bringing me stuff, I can't tell you anything without you bringing me something more as another solution. We haven't gotten very far because there's all of these solutions that are piled up that are not looking at evidence or turning it in. So this morning, what he was saying is, all right, I rescind the BB gun. I rescind all of this stuff that he had brought me, but that later I can use it when I ask for it. And thank you for that. And it ended up being a situation that he didn't take those things out of here. He gave me more stuff again and ran with one of his assumptions again. Ran with one of the things that he claimed he understood was a wrong thing to do. It's like when you tell somebody, hey, I need you to understand that this is a rental and you can't draw on the walls with crayons. So they go, where the hell are my crayons, by the way? You tell them writing on the walls with crayons is not a good idea. So they say, okay, I won't write with crayons. We'll replace crayons, obviously, with threats of physical assault against others. And I tell you that's traumatic for me, but we're just going to pretend it's writing on the wall with crayon. And you ask them to stop writing on the wall with crayon. They tell you they understand that it's a rental and that it's going to cost you money to write on the wall with crayon, that you're going to have to spend the day scrubbing the wall to get that all off of there because they're writing on the wall with crayon. And they tell you, well, I'm just trying to draw pretty pictures with crayon to make you happy. They're not doing things to help me. They're doing things that they want to see me happy. That isn't going to make me happy when that's destroying somebody else's stuff. And I say, hey, could you stop writing on the wall? And you say, I understand that writing on the wall isn't helpful, that it's going to cost you money, that it's a rental. And you say, but why can't we have me write on the wall, and then you can cut it out of the wall and fix it with drywall? Your solutions, no matter how many times you want to repeat the same solution, is not the fix. You are so gung-ho about doing these things that even after agreeing that you're going to stop doing these things in lieu of looking at evidence and listening, like, yes, we can eventually get all this stuff moved in there, but to begin with, we need to get a case started. In order to get a case started and actually investigated, when it is a mentally ill victim, a friend or family member has to verify that they're telling the truth, or they're gonna get sent in circles. You have to verify that they're telling the truth. Now, yes, there are literally thousands of threats. I'm not going to expect anyone to say that there are thousands of threats, because I'm not going to expect anybody to literally go through all of this to find every single threat so that they can tell you the exact number of threats that I've received. No, I'm not going to do that. That's fucking inhumane. Then there's when people want to offer to do things that are a lot more work than they had thought that it was going to be. So it takes forever to get to it. So the parts that he was going to help me with was that he was going to take some of the papers that I was trying to show him that he was either going to sleep through or doing looking at the phone for stuff that's entirely 100% not looking at evidence or hearing my story. The car stuff, fine. Now, he wanted to throw it in my face today because the car that I was thinking about buying, I was either going to go for a bus that ended up getting sold already, or a car that ended up, it didn't have a title. So he wanted to, again, go back about what I should have done and what I should do, and all of this other stuff and auctions. And I can't handle this. Okay. This is more stuff you're piling on top of me after after telling me you understand that this is only making things worse, that this is making more work for me. And then you are literally going to do it again with the crayon. I understand, Sean. I understand. Okay, I agree. I'll stop drawing on the wall with the crayon now and listen to you. And then he disappears for 2 days, and the worst person about it is Shannon Alvarado. Meanwhile, he's going to be angry if I use his name, but of course people are angry if I even tell the story, because there's somebody who's going to know who they are. Meanwhile, we got crayon all over the wall. It's fine. It's my wall. I own the wall. I own this wall. It's mine. A man bought it for me, and I offered to give him the money for this wall. I offered to give him the money for it. He didn't know how much it cost. You know, it's a situation where somebody gave me something that I actually needed. This I actually needed. That's not a joke. Matter of fact, it's thicker than I needed. It's as thick as I wanted. I can use this for something else later. But it's mine. And it was a gift that I had asked for. I had asked for the feller the next time that he goes on a trip to buy such things, and that I would give him the money for it. He said, that's fine, just reimburse me when I get it. So then when he got it, he didn't really feel like being reimbursed, because I went to him several times after that to try to pay him, and it eventually got to where he was just, don't worry about it. Now, today I needed help carrying things because of my disability, and this other feller who has been saying he's going to look at evidence and help turn it in did help me to carry that stuff. He helped give me a ride to some place. And the things that, like, for example, when we were going to go to my storage and then we were going to go to the auto parts store as well and several other places, there was stuff that I needed to work on, well, getting someone to look at evidence and turning it in. Now, of course, yesterday when we went shopping, thank goodness it wasn't a situation where he was second guessing everything that I'm buying. And I'm at this point trying to appease them because I don't want to have an argument in the middle of Fred Meyer's. I'm subservient. I don't own the property I'm on. If somebody is offended here by the way that I fart, the way that I burp, or me having a mental breakdown, they can kick me off the property, and I have to worry about all of my evidence and all of my tools, as well as everything in storage, and all of these things that I can't do for myself because these people aren't helping me to get these things for myself. They're not understanding, like, when I finally got somebody to make a 20-minute phone call with me and listen to the instructions and follow the instructions with me and verify that it had been done. Because those things happened, well, I finally got the back money that I've needed. There's a lot of solutions that he had come up with that are solutions for somebody who's completely broke. Okay, but at the same time, I can't wait the amount of time that it's going to take for you to eventually get around to doing something because it's important. The stuff from last night needed to be turned in with somebody. Just like with Candace, whenever it's a situation where I go to them and they weren't able to get reached at fucking 5 a.m., well, I get that. But if it's 11 a.m., you can still help me to turn it in. And instead, whenever I tried to explain that to Candy, it was, oh, well, I'm sorry I missed it. Maybe next time. No, this is literally dozens of crimes that have been committed against me in the 2 days that this guy has been ghosting me to go off on the special projects that he said that he understood that these things, and spending all of his time on these things and investing in all of the time on these things. You are literally making problems for me by fixing problems that don't exist and or we can't do anything about, other than turn in the fact that it happened, because it's what's called a catch-22. When you are sent to multiple locations, and each of those locations say it's not their job, but all of these other locations say that it is their job, we could easily remedy that by getting somebody to look at the fact that they're throwing me into a catch-22 situation. A bunch of people are lying to me because they don't want to do the work. And if I'm busy arguing with the person who says that they're going to help me, who's wanting to tell me, oh, well, they wouldn't do that because it's against the law. And I'm like, you're treating me like I'm a fucking liar, and I'm asking you to look at a fucking video that shows that that's exactly what happened. If I do eventually get them to look at the video, they get all surprised that I was telling them the truth. Holy shit, Sean, that really happened. Yes, exactly. And if you'd have been not being an asshole to me the whole fucking time and making excuses not to look or 10,000 other fixes, you'd have recognized that this shit happened a long time ago. And then let me tell you about, well, drug addicts helping you to turn stuff in. There's a guy named Drew. in Hood River. And he was fucked up on mushrooms when he was trying to turn stuff in. Like, obviously, that's not helpful. The stuff that he was talking about, I'm like, oh my God. Like, it sucks that this is literally the only person that I can get to go in with me, because he's got no clue what's going on. There was another guy in Hood River, and he offered to help me to turn some of this stuff in. And then he started talking about how he owns all of the property in Hood River and a bunch of other stuff. He seemed pretty sane to begin with, but as things went along, he started talking about a lot of nutty stuff. One of the things, though, is he wanted to talk about how he had these bugs inside of him, and he was pissed off that I could not see these bugs. This is kind of the thing that set me off with him, is that he had these little micro nanobots that he thought were inside of his system. And although everything else pretty much seemed like he knew what was going on and had a healthy understanding, this nanobot thing was... The fact that I found out about the nanobots while trying to turn something in with him really was the kicker for me. That was what made it an issue, because this guy was aware of some stuff. He'd been a witness to this stuff, but then he was also of the opinion that I couldn't do anything because it was the Illuminati doing this stuff. And I'm dealing with a bunch of people like this for help. When I'm sent to peer support, I'm being sent to people who are recovering drug addicts in most of these situations, and many of them are, well, for example, getting to hear that Shelley, in the amount of time that she's been working there, has fallen off the bandwagon, so to speak, as a heroin addict. I speak up about how peer support is situations like that, or about how when we as men are abused and we're having to go to women's support places, or women's support, where these women are supposed to not be sexist about helping victims, but they've also, many of them, decided that men are the predators. So when you have to go to them for help and you say, I'm being harmed because people are pretending that I did certain things that I have never done, never been charged with, nothing, all because I told on somebody who is doing harmful things to me. Now, how many women, statistically, are going to claim that something happened that didn't in order to try to win an argument, win a battle, or sway people to their side? About 70%. About 70% of the crimes committed by women are fucking bogus. We're not talking about all crimes. We're talking about very specifically when it comes to abuse, when it comes to custody situations, when it comes to a situation where she is the physical aggressor. I've seen more than one male friend who wants to be macho. When his girlfriend is beating on him, he just lets her do it over and over and over again, even in front of people, which is a show of control. And nothing ever happens to her. Then he disappears for a couple of years. He comes back, and you're like, dude, where you been? Well, shit, I was in prison because my wife was beating on me, and when she grabbed a kitchen knife, I fucking pushed her over. She came at me with the kitchen knife from the floor and fucking swung it at me, so I took it out of her arm. Then she called the cops, and I got arrested, and that was it. Now, do I believe his story? Yes, absolutely I do. Because of the sheer quantity of physical assaults that he endured in front of many people. I was even at a street dance in a place called Garden County, a town called Oshkosh, where I saw a woman. She was tiny and her husband was huge, and she was physically assaulting him. She was also verbally berating him. and he was just taking it. Nobody did anything. Now then, of course, when I have one recording device available to me at that particular moment, that doesn't mean I don't have other recording devices. That means that I'm not going out of my way to fucking string myself up with fucking tweaker cams. I don't want to have an issue, but if there is an issue, I have the ability to record it. If somebody comes out of the blue, one of my predators decides he's going to come harass me when I've literally left a place to get away from him, it is recorded. Kind of like when 16 minutes into a recording or something like that, 26 minutes maybe into one of those recordings, I was at a church and Andrew Wolnez came to the church after physically assaulting me repeatedly. Nobody there was going to give a shit. I already knew. I'd been trying to get help from those people for a while. I'd been blown off at that church while after being physically assaulted on their church more than once. When I was bullied at their church and I was going out of my way to try to ignore the bullies, I got told, no fighting, no fighting. I'm not trying to fight with anybody. I'm not trying to fight with anybody. At that point, number one, you're victimizing the victim and helping the predator. You're betraying a victim's trust. You are supposed to what? You're supposed to help homeless people by feeding them? But if a homeless person goes there to get some food and somebody fucking assaults them, you're going to look the other way? That's disgusting. And they're recorded doing that repeatedly. So yesterday when this guy was going to help me, he had all of these ideas and all these plans that needed to be changed. He needed to stop having the tunnel vision, claimed that he was going to stop, and all of the places that I needed to go that he had said that he was going to give me a ride to, and I told him I would give him money to give me a ride for gas. He tells me that he's got gas, tells me that he doesn't need the money, and we didn't go to the places that I needed to go. I needed to go to storage. We didn't go there. After I've had anxiety for 2 days straight because he's a no-call, no-show, and I have gone to try to find out what's up, and he was sleeping. And his roommate yelled down to him, and he yelled up that he was sleeping. So then later on during the day, he says, oh, well, if I'm sleeping, just wake me up. I didn't know you were sleeping this morning, first of all. It's a little out of your schedule to sleep at that point in time, but I understand your schedule isn't regular. It's not that I'm not working with that. When they tell me that they don't have a regular sleeping schedule, I work with it. When I say I don't have a regular sleep schedule, people don't work with it. When they don't keep their word, that's what keeps me up at night. The number of people that don't keep their word to look at evidence and turn it in with me, that is fucking simple. Now then there's the paperwork. There's 4 pages. I only had one of them yesterday to show him. So today I went in and made copies of it when we went to pick up these copies. And it's not like he's not trying to help. He went in with me to get the copies because there's no way that I was going to be able to carry them back here. But also there wasn't room in here because of all of the stuff that one of his friends was going to come help me move today. But his friend, during that period of time, was when we were going to pick these up, and his friend was going to come back. We were just supposed to go get these, and then his friend was going to come back, but he wanted to go for some rides and do some other things. When we came back with the papers after going and getting them, then his friend was going to help me to move that stuff so that I could make room. But then we went out to pick up his friend and then go to a bargain shop place, which is what he wanted to do. And he wanted to ask me if I wanted to do that. And even though I'm not comfortable with going shopping with him because of it becomes very difficult when you're with somebody who's wanting to get every penny pinch and every deal, even if it takes a while. Kind of like when Mandy Singer wanted to, after I gave her $500 $400 for a computer and $100 for 5 hours worth of work. That's what I gave her. And instead of buying a computer, what she did is she wanted to wait a few months because her daughter worked at Walmart and her daughter was going to get a special deal or discount around Christmas time. So she was going to get a special deal for extra cheap or right around, whenever. But the thing is that she hadn't gotten a computer, and she didn't actually get a computer. Now, when people want to give me suggestions and I'm telling them I've already done this, like when they want to offer me a bunch of USB drives, why don't you get some USB drives? I have USB drives. I've got a bunch of them. Well, why can't I use some of those USB drives? Because they're full. They're full of evidence. They're full of evidence of, one, me trying to get help, and two, why I'm trying to get help. Why am I trying to get help? Because of physical assaults, threats against my life, repeated vandalism, and of course, the stuff that goes into the courts and goes into my medical records because police officers, instead of investigating, wanted to fucking commit felonies. They want to ask 10,000 questions. How about instead of asking me if I called the cops after I've already answered that I've called the cops repeatedly, what I need you to do is to pay attention to the reality of the situations when I called the cops, to look at the evidence. When you agree to do that, because it is so traumatic for me to have to go through all of that stuff to send it to you, I try to fill my mind with happy shit. Building boats, things like that. Kind of like your special project might be computers, or you might have gone to school and spent a couple semesters learning a little of the stuff the lawyers do, or whatever else that it happens to be. So you want to offer the help that your specialty goes along with. Like Vicki Rain, who used to work as in part of the legal department at a hospital. So she kept on interrupting me to tell me she knows it from the other side. Okay, well, that's useful knowledge. However, what it's not doing, because you are repeatedly interrupting to tell me something you've already told me, you're not getting the point of why I'm telling you these things. Like when I tell her about the situation of needing somebody to go in with the hospital, or I get abused and I need to turn in the abuse that happened because I went in by myself. And she's wanting to volunteer a whole bunch of stuff with going to the hospital and a bunch of other things. And please stop volunteering things long enough to understand why I'm telling you these things. Why it is I'm trying to get you to show the evidence. Why it is that when you tell me that you're going to take the time to listen to me and then you want to tell me your backstory for the fourth or fifth time, why I'm overwhelmed with your brand of help. Your brand of help does not include what's on this list. Now, on this channel last night, I made an angry video reading it. For certainly I was angry. Today, when he wanted to say that he'd read it, that didn't we go over these yesterday? No, we have 4 pieces of paper here. And I only had one of them last night. I had to try to find the other one. One of the things with trying to find all of this stuff is that there's no room to move anything except my bed. And it was so full in here that my bed was full in addition to everything else that was full, because again, the situation of me saying I can't carry anymore, my bed is full of this stuff. Everything is full of a bunch of stuff that, yes, it's useful, but it's not useful right now. It's not useful right now. Video after video, I got to get on here and explain that I want you to understand that the reason that I am coming to video and saying these things here is because these people won't hear it. I'm telling you what they're doing when I try to tell them. When I try to tell them my story uninterrupted, I even try to show them the paperwork that says those things. And they want to set me up with, extra complicated stuff with phones that aren't going to be able to work. When you tell me I can send you stuff. If you have a smartphone and I send you some evidence so you can look at it, and you say, I can't see it because my screen is cracked. Okay. But then he says that he's going to take a look at it with me. Not to talk about it over the phone. He'll talk about all the stuff he wants to talk about on the phone. Kind of like my dad with the forex.com. When it came to finding out what was actually going on in the situation with me and Natalie, he said he'd pay attention to that. He said he'd look at it. But he wanted to push forex.com as his solution. If I do this day trading, it's somehow going to fix all of my problems with Natalie. Or if he forces me to take this pickup truck that I can't even pay, or this Jeep Grand Cherokee that I can't even pay the insurance on until he helps me to get my disability money back, which I need a steady address for. So I'm having to take not only abuse, but forced help because I'm needing a steady address. While people are offering to help me how I need, and I go there because they're going to help me how I need. And then once I'm there, they immediately change their minds once they have control over my stuff. Once it becomes a situation where I have to be afraid that it's either their way or losing my evidence. That I have to do things their way. That it's not okay to speak up publicly about the reality of the situation. Like at Shannon Alvarado's, I had to pretend none of that stuff was going on until I could leave. I didn't have any way to go anywhere else. I didn't have any money to go anywhere else. I had nothing. I tell them, hey, I need you to tell these people who are pretending these are delusions. I need you to tell them that it's the truth, or they're never even going to try looking at it. When you have 10,000 ideas of a bunch of stuff that I am now able to do, I have spent literally tens of thousands of dollars on electronic devices and on paying people to teach me how to use this shit. And although it is barely functional, there's a lot of stuff I'm able to do for myself. The one thing I can't do for myself is turn it in with someone else. I can't provide that someone else. I'm asking you to be that someone else. When you have agreed to be that somebody else and to help me how I need, and every single time you show that, number one, you don't understand that, and then once you show, you've proved to me 100% beyond a shadow of a doubt that you understand and that you are apologetic about it. And then what do? You literally do it again immediately. Tonight, he gave me a bag so that I could pack up my computer and put the computer into a bag so that we can take it into the house and watch it in there in the office that's half completed, that he's super excited about. And, I literally just got done for the 8th time at least since this started, asking him to stop giving me more stuff. These are still the ideas for his fix-its. He's still investing all of this time into his fixes instead of the one thing I need his help with. The one thing I can't do for myself, which is call in with a friend or family member who's informed. I need your complete and full attention. When you say you're going to stop pushing all of your special projects and special ideas on me, that you're going to focus on what I need you to focus on, which is looking at the evidence, and you're looking at the auto trader thing. And then later on, like today or yesterday, actually, when he threw it in my face, like that's not what I needed. What I was trying to get you to understand while you were doing all of that auto stuff is that I need you to stop doing that auto stuff and focus on literally the fact that he was sitting next to me. The computer is literally right in front of me. I'm literally handing him pieces of paper, and he's nodding off or doing the auto trader thing. when you have that issue, I'm expected to understand. When I'm having literally the same issue that you're having, I'm treated like I'm some shitty fucking person who's making excuses. When I say I am tired and I'm overwhelmed, when he says that he's overwhelmed with this stuff, I allow him to go. When I tell him that I'm overwhelmed with something, it's not the same. It means that he needs to talk faster and try to convince me, or talk louder and try to convince me, after saying he's not going to do that anymore. Now, because he stopped trying to convince me and said that he understands, and then literally he wants to explain to me, but what my whole reasoning for it. Yeah, I know you want to tell me your reasoning for not listening every fucking time. That's literally the things that you said you were going to stop doing. I'm not allowed to get frustrated. I know from experience with many, many, many people that they're allowed to get frustrated because they changed the rules on me again. They're allowed to get frustrated that I'm not able to do those things still. Or that these things require somebody who knows what's going on to actually help. In order for you to know what's going on, you have to look at the evidence. If we're going to call someplace, that if I call them alone and tell them that I was assaulted, they're going to run me around in circles. If you are aware of that, and you are aware of that tactic, instead of arguing with me about it or telling me a bunch of stories about a bunch of other people, how about we look at the evidence and turn it in together? That's not complicated. When you want to ask me over and over and over again who it needs to be turned into, we don't need to focus on that yet. We need to focus on what happened. And then, of course, a lot of these people have disabilities, and they're offering to do something that I'm not okay with somebody with those disabilities doing. For example, my sister's friend Ed destroyed an entire computer full of evidence. Now, when you tell me it feels like you're comparing me to a bad ex, no, I'm not. I'm telling you the problems that I have so that we don't have to go through that again. I'm telling you that these actions are counterproductive and why. You're not allowing me to explain why. You still aren't allowing me to explain why. You're offended by the fact that I am trying to say why, because you're trying to interrupt me because you don't want to hear the explanation. You feel like you're being chastised like you're a bad child, and you're showing it. But you're a grown adult. And a grown adult needs to listen. A grown adult needs to understand. That is an adult behavior, listening to understand. A lot of people wanted to tell me that I needed to put myself in Alicia's shoes and Natalie Bollinger's shoes and their parents' shoes and so on and so forth. You know what? I did. When I left Virginia, I knew that between finding out what was going on, admitting the situation was real, or leaving, I knew that leaving was the smart thing to do. They weren't going to admit the truth. Somebody needed to look at it. When she pretended that I stalked her, do people look at all of the messages between us that show that we were friends? No, they take one of them completely out of context and pretend none of the rest of it exists. And then they use that one thing out of context to try to get people to believe their fucking lies. Meanwhile, all of the friends I was told to go to about this, all of them, every single friend that I had before this situation happened, all of the ones that I went to help, did exactly what this guy's doing, did exactly what those drug addicts across the street did. Promised to help me. They took my money. They wasted my time. Now, with this guy, it's different with the money. Okay, I hope that if I offer to pay somebody, they will take that as what it is. You're getting paid to do a job. And I very specifically tell them, I'm not going to pay you for all of this other stuff. There's a lot to go through. And when we can't get past your assumptions on literally anything, we're not getting anywhere. When you're saying that you understand and you're going to stop doing something, and literally those are the only things you're working on, we're not getting anywhere. When you say that you will look at the evidence and help me to turn it in, and then you miss all of our appointments because you're doing all of the things that you said that you weren't going to do anymore, we're not getting anywhere. We're going in reverse. And then these people are paranoid that I'll speak up in public. Well, you goddamn right I will. All right? I won't just speak up in public. To begin with, I will speak up in public. Absolutely I will. Because I am afraid the behaviors that he is exhibiting, regardless of his intent, show complete and total disrespect and disregard for me. Because if I have to tell somebody a dozen times to stop bringing stuff to me and they keep doing it, they're not listening. When they say, okay, I heard you and I'm going to stop bringing you stuff and stop giving you suggestions. And then when they're supposed to supposedly look at evidence and fucking listen to your story and help turn it in, it's literally going right back to it again. And here I have spent 2 hours saying that over and over and over again because it keeps happening. I'm having to say all of the things that I can't say to him or to any of these other people because they're going to get offended. I would like for you to take it seriously and look at the evidence before you make all of those mistakes. If I can get you to look at what those mistakes were and why they're important before you fuck up yourself doing exactly the same thing, then I might possibly get you to listen without getting butthurt and insulted and pretending that I'm saying you are an evil person who's doing things to fuck my life over intentionally. But at this point, I have no choice but to believe that. This is why I have to be afraid to even talk to people. There's a guy named Aaron, one of the churches in here, Living Water. I tried to tell him what was going on. He didn't really want to listen. He had a solution and we were going to go out. He offered to take me out for a burger, and I thought that this was going to be an opportunity for me to tell him what was going on and what I needed help with. And even though I tried, he wanted to tell me about his religion and his denomination and his assumptions, and he just wouldn't shut the fuck up. What it was about was him feeling better about imposing on me help that I didn't need. He knows better than I fucking do. He thinks that a fucking hamburger is going to fix the goddamn problem, so I let him buy me a hamburger. And I had hoped that he wasn't going to throw it in my face that he bought me a hamburger in lieu of actually helping me or listening. Then he ghosted me for 2 weeks. I did send him evidence that stuff was happening, but just like the situation this morning when I told this feller that this happened again last night. Again, he's not looking at the evidence. He's not helping to turn it in. He literally talked over it like I had said nothing. The comment that he made about it when he did acknowledge it was entirely dismissive because he wanted to talk about electronics again. And I apologized to him this morning because I wasn't recording, because I had literally just finally been able to almost get to sleep, and then he showed up. When he says that he's overwhelmed, I let him go. When I'm overwhelmed and I tell him that I'm overwhelmed, that I need space, then he takes that as his opportunity. Oh, well, that means that I can talk about all of this stuff and eat up the next half hour. No, I'm overwhelmed. I need you to go away. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm hoping that you will show me the same respect I showed you when you said you were overwhelmed. I'm also trying to let you know that you can't possibly do all of these things you're volunteering to do. I paid almost $500 for this box of photocopies because I needed the help. I needed somebody to stop talking about doing it and actually doing it. Actually do it. I mean, it's obvious that these are wrapped in fucking plastic even. I mean, those people did a great job. It was worth that fucking money not to have to listen to somebody trying to force stuff on me. He had been repeatedly telling me about his photocopying stuff over and over and over again, and I gave him stuff that I told him repeatedly. I am giving these to you to photocopy. Then today, he wants to tell me, oh, you mean that stuff that you gave me to read? No, I didn't give it to you to read. I tried going over it with you, and you were fucking zoning out and on Auto Trader. You said you'd go over it with me, but you didn't do that. The one time that you made the time to actually do that, instead of one of your special projects, you literally couldn't stop going after all of your special projects or dozing off instead. The one time that you actually showed up to do the things you said that you would do, and you literally didn't do those things. I was talking, but I was talking out my ass because you were too busy focusing on the stuff that you wanted to do, the Auto Trader. I'm trying to show you important evidence of people threatening to fucking kill me, and you're fucking looking up cars. And I asked you to stop, and you say you understand, and you went right back to the cars. I'm fucking overwhelmed. It is your help that is overwhelming me. Repeatedly, me not accepting help that I can't accept at that current point in time has been used as either A, an excuse to pretend that I'm not trying to get help, B, pretending that I'm trying to turn down the help that I need. There's a bunch of other ways that it's interpreted. But the reality is you're wasting our fucking time. You're making things worse for both of us. You're treating me like shit because I'm getting stressed out, and I'm not allowed to get stressed out, and you're wanting to make all sorts of rules up, and all sorts of fucking pretty memes you want to say that explain to me that it's not okay for me to have any emotions over this. Meanwhile, you're allowed to project your emotions onto me. You're allowed to get angry. You're allowed to raise your voice. You're allowed to yell. You're allowed to tell me to shut the fuck up. You're allowed to interrupt me repeatedly. And then, when I have to fucking talk over you like you've done to me repeatedly, I've had to ask you to stop talking over me repeatedly, and the one time that I have to try to talk over you because you've done this repeatedly, you want to become an asshole because you're pissed off that I talked over you. I only talked over you because after telling me you're going to stop, you did it again. Then you want to treat me like I'm a fucking hypocrite because you won't listen. You want to tell me you're going to stop coming up with solutions for me. And the reason I'm saying this dozens of times, over and over and over and over and over again in this video, is because I'm having to deal with this over and over and over and over again. Everybody knows better than the retard. Now these 4 pieces of paper today, when he said that he thought we'd gone over all 4 of them, that's because he was going to sleep and because he was looking at Auto Trader and he was talking about a bunch of stuff that I told him I'm overwhelmed with this RAM terabyte external this and external a bunch of all that fucking bullshit. How about we take a look at this situation? One of the first things I asked him when he was fucking pushing all of that stuff, because I have personal experience with people doing exactly that. Lana and Amanda were going to save all this stuff and put out an external hard drive thingy. And they obviously claimed that they did this. They even handed me the thing. They even showed me the thing. They obviously knew how to use it. I didn't. I told them that. They told me there was a cord missing, so they couldn't show me how to use it. Well, how the fuck did you make it work then? So I had to take that external hard drive that didn't have the right fucking plug-in, and I went to Miss Jerry's, in fucking Billings, Montana. Sorry, Belgrade, Montana. And it was her daughter's apartment by that point. And Jerry, what did she do? She got onto the phone with her boyfriend the whole fucking time. This is the day I'm leaving to get on a bus to go to Colorado. Miss Jerry hasn't actually helped me with the things that she said she'd help me with, except for setting up a fucking YouTube channel. Why is it that I use the YouTube channel instead of these other sources? Because I didn't have access, because I didn't have help. Because Miss Jerry, instead of actually helping me on the 2 days, she said that she was going to come spend 2 days helping me. And that entire 2 days she spent at the kitchen table with Lana Engeline. With the exception of when she helped me to set up the fucking YouTube channel thing. That's the one thing that she helped me with. So the day that I left, when I was at her daughter's place, and she's bitching at me about not doing a bunch of work on this fucking external thing that, number one, I don't know how to use. Number two, I don't have all the cords for. And we established that as soon as I got to her place. And she told me that she was sorry she didn't have a cord. It was in one of the drawers somewhere. You don't have a cord, except it's in one of the drawers somewhere. She says that she's not going to go through the drawers because it's now her daughter's appointment. She's not going to go going through her daughter's stuff. Well, this is her cord apparently, and she's not going to go going through her daughter's stuff for her cord, but it's in there somewhere. And so we've established that I can't do anything. She can't help me with the terabyte thing. I don't know how to use it. She's not going to fucking help me to use it. And then as soon as she gets on the phone with her boyfriend, she's on the phone with her boyfriend literally for hours. And I'm having to wait for her to take the time to actually help me. But then she's forgetting that she doesn't have that wire to make this thing work. So then she's asking me several times during her phone call when I'm asking for her for help. Instead of actually helping me, she's getting a fucking snappy attitude with me. Why aren't you working on that external hard drive? Like, oh my God. Oh my God, Jerry. Are you on that many fucking drugs? What the hell are you on to be able to not be able to pay attention that much? When I left there, she even wanted to treat me like shit after I left. When I was trying to point out, hey, I was trying to get help. I was trying to get your attention. The situation at Lana and Amanda's was very abusive, and I knew that it would be because they both have a history of that same exact manipulation, not just against me, but also with Jerry. But then again, Jerry's got experience in manipulating people too. She does the whole, I'm afraid of this dude because he threw something at my head and it narrowly missed my head and hit the wall. And then later on, when she went back to that guy, it was, oh, that's not what happened. No, he was just talking with his hands and there was an empty bottle and he accidentally hit it. Holy shit, Jerry. I literally traveled hundreds of miles and spent a whole bunch of manual labor and spent my money to help get a fucking U-Haul and other resources so that Miss Jerry could move at Ron's house because he tried to fucking kill her with something. Then it turns out that's not the case at all. Oh no, he's not an abusive boyfriend that it was an emergency and she was afraid for her kids. No, now that she's going back to him because she doesn't have money and he does. It was an accident and she wanted to blame it on Lana, claiming that Lana was forcing her and bullying her and so on and so forth into saying that Ron was this horrible person. None of these women are going to take responsibility for their actions. They want to blame it on the other women that they're with. Yes, I get that Amanda Engeline is going to do what Lana wants, and that Lana is going to bully anybody because Lana knows better than anybody. And if you have anything to say other than Lana, who knows everything, she's going to fucking treat you like shit. Telling me you're going to stop doing something harmful, and then you come back and you're smiling and happy about the things that you literally said that you understood were harmful. And you're going to come back to me with a smile on your face as if you've done something good. We have missed all of the things that this guy was going to help me with. We've missed all of that because he still can't come off of his special projects. He said that he offered me to go to a store, right? So I went with him. And the guy that was going to help me to move stuff out of here so I had room for more things so that I could actually organize this stuff. Well, that guy, it turned out that he was going to go with us. So we went and picked him up at his place. And we went down to the used place to go rummage sailing or whatever. And the guy warned me before we went there. He said, it's probably going to take me a while. I'll probably be there maybe even 30 or 45 minutes. 2 hours and 15 minutes later, we finally left. 2 hours and 15 minutes later. That's 3 times the amount of time that we were supposed to spend there. At max, 45 minutes. You know, he's saying this is a long time, but all of this takes a long time. He forgets that we exist. I sat in the car for an hour and a half after that 45 minutes. Now, what's 45 minutes plus 45 minutes? That's an hour and a half. That means after the 45 minutes that he said it was going to take max, we had to take 2 more of those maximum amount of times waiting on him. And I went in several times because the guy that I was with was complaining about how long it was taking. But I don't want to pressure this guy. I'm dependent on him. And that's one of the things about once you have a dependency on somebody. You know, the stuff that I was already dependent on this man for, his help and his emotions over this complications of the help are actually putting where I'm staying now in jeopardy, because I have to worry that because I'm speaking out on YouTube about the situation, that he's going to be angry that I'm speaking out on YouTube. I shouldn't have to. This is not what I should have to do. When you put a roadblock in there and then you forget about that roadblock and go do your own thing, like, for example, when your phone doesn't work and that's the issue that you have, and then you want to tell me, all right, well, call me later. Or you don't say call me later because we already know that there's that issue, but you're in a hurry and you're overwhelmed and you need to leave right this moment. So you tell me that we'll work on it at 11 or we'll work on it at 10. Okay. But then when I go looking for him at the time that he says to do these things, it doesn't matter because he's not there, or he's sleeping, or he's in some other part that I have to go looking for him. He knows right where I'm at. It's not like I go anywhere other than this fucking tent. But at the same time, there are multiple situations since he said he'd go walking with me, like for the last 2 days when he was completely non-existent before yesterday. Yeah, I still had to go do shit. You're giving me a temporary fix. I'm working on a long-term solution. My long-term solution is not to have to rely on people who are undependable. Regardless of their intentions, their follow-through is shit. And when I have to deal with their paranoid thinking, like when I'm telling them that literally for years, the problem has been that I'm not getting heard. that people who claim that they're hearing me are showing that they're not hearing me by doing things that are harmful. They don't want to hear that those things are harmful. Oh, I understand. I understand. No, 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 no. Many of these people want to tell me long-winded stories about how they understand because of their personal experiences. So then I have recording after recording after recording of them telling me stuff about them being felons, about them being drug addicts, about them being, well, all sorts of horrible shit that you guys don't want to hear about. One thing that sucks is that when you get help from somebody and all of a sudden you got people coming up and telling you this person's a registered sex offender. Well, most of the time, if you tell me somebody's a registered sex offender, I'm going to look up the sex offender registry. No problem. I can do that. So a lot of people have told me that the person who is helping me in various places must be a sex offender. They're trying to deter me from getting help from these people. Or they want that to be justification for them harming somebody. Like that guy who wanted to harm a schizophrenic dude in Hood River and claimed that the man was a sex offender. Well, at the moment, yeah, it's probably important for that situation to result in the guy who's being called a sex offender to not be there because other people will get involved. Now, I met that guy later on. Turned out he wasn't a sex offender. Turned out he was schizophrenic. And he's bullied everywhere he goes into moving somewhere else. He gave me his name. He showed me his ID. I even looked it up right then and there to see if he was a registered sex offender. No, he was fucking targeted. He was targeted because he was mentally ill and easy to victimize and nobody was going to fucking listen to him. But just for good measure, because people aren't really okay with you doing that to a fucking disabled person, he's going to pretend that you're a fucking child molester, a fucking pedophile. Because then they won't listen. Then they won't pull out their cameras and fucking record it and try to turn him in for what he's done to you. I show you that I'm not the only victim, and I'm having to show you guys on YouTube because I can't find one person in person who actually cares to look in person and take it seriously. You're not taking it seriously if you're still doing the exact same things that you said you wouldn't do. When you said you understand this is eating up time that I don't have, we need to get a case started. In order to do that, I have to have a friend or family member turn it in with me. That's what we need to focus on. Right now, what we can turn in is a grand total of your assumptions. The reason for that is because all of the things that I've told you, half of them you don't remember, if not more. You don't have the attention span of a squirrel in most cases, and of course that's an insult. But that's also the way that I speak. When I'm saying that, I'm not saying it as an insult. I'm saying it to show you how what you are doing is being presented. One of the things with people wanting to constantly interrupt me with these ideas and also constantly telling me about how little time they have. And then they can invest all of this time in all of these other things. So when you're busy interrupting me because of expedience, you want it to go faster. You want to somehow find some magic easy route. Like there's no such thing as magic, dude. When it comes to science, yes, magic actually does exist. When it comes to the fantasy version, no, that doesn't. What's the difference? Well, as some of you might know if you paid attention to history, doctors used to be considered witches until there was a pope who was afraid of dying of the plague. If it weren't for that pope being afraid of dying of the plague, was he afraid of going to heaven? The holiest of holy peoples on this planet are supposed spiritual guidance for the Catholic Church, and he was afraid of dying of the plague. He wasn't having any issues with having doctors who were trying to help to save people. He had no problems burning them at the stake. How did they save that Pope? Well, he told the doctors he'd let them out of prison if they could save his life. Now, while what that Pope, and of course that Pope didn't put those people on the pole himself, did he? He didn't stack all that cordwood underneath those people, did he? No, he had other people do it for him. Other influential fucking morons. Oh, you're a doctor? Yeah, let's spend a bunch of time and resources building a fire to burn them to death. That sounds like a good idea. No, that's sarcasm. And those of you who don't understand that that is sarcasm coming out of my face, that's really not a good fucking idea. Kind of like when I was telling that guy about the BB gun, you know, because instead of listening, a lot of people want to interrupt me to offer violence, or they spent their time, instead of looking at evidence and helping turn that in, they spent their time inventing creepy ways of hurting people. Like when you have told me that you want to help me and that you're going to stop with this violent stuff, that you understand that it fucking creeps me out, and then you come back and you want to suggest that we take a bag of rats and go over to that person's house and dump it in there, or you want to ask me questions about, oh, do they recognize me? Will we be able to? No, we don't need to catch them again. They've already been caught. Again, you're creating issues to problems we don't have. We need to turn in the fact that they've already done it, not waste time on problems we don't have. The other thing is, if I post up the full videos of the last 8 people who offered to help me, the last 8 people who said that they would look at evidence, hear my story, and turn it in, all 8 of those people will be arrested. When you're offering this up as something that you are actually willing to do, and you're interrupting important stuff to tell me about how we should do this instead, your idea is to go burn their house down, or to fucking put rats in their house, or to go beat them with a baseball bat, or to fucking shoot them. No. No, 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 no. And when I say, please stop doing that, and you do it again and again and again, and then you say that, oh, you understand, finally, and you're going to stop doing it, and then you tell me another story, and I have to repeat again, please stop doing that. And then you say, oh, I'm sorry, it's just fun to think about. Holy shit, that's fun to you. Oh my God, that is seriously going to make me be afraid of you. You think it's fun to think about how to fucking torture people. Holy shit. No, Joseph Michael Lopez was fucking infatuated with fucking torturing people. When you tell me that instead of helping me, instead of keeping your word, and you're doing it repeatedly, and then you're telling me it's fun to think about, holy shit, I'm fucking scared. That is a fucking red flag. Holy hell. When they are so tunnel visioned out on harming others, on their infatuations with harming others, their daydreams of harming others. I have nightmares about people doing exactly that because they do those exact things. If I don't post it on the internet, I get treated like I'm a liar. If I'm dependent on that person because I'm staying there, then I can't post that evidence for exactly that reason. I will lose everything. And then after explaining to them that the reason that I'm recording this, there's a very specific reason I'm recording this. This is exactly the stuff I have to turn in. how disrespectful people are, how they say that they're listening and show that they're not. They say that they understand, and they'll even say word for word, this is why. Now, they haven't seen the evidence of it, so there's no visual marker, and they're not trying to look at the evidence of it, so there's no visual marker. So basically, they're trying to remember something that they aren't going to. Once they've said that they understand why you're doing something, and then they go right back to assuming that you're trying to insult them. At this point, what am I supposed to do other than insult you? How can I possibly get you to understand the English language? The only thing I can do at this point is either A, speak up on YouTube, or B, scream at him at the top of my lungs. And you guys have no idea how angry people get when they're end all, beat all, fix it all of all existence isn't working. And they've said that they're going to help you the way that you need. And they go right back to that. And then they want to throw it in your face. Why? I spent all that time helping you. No, you didn't. You didn't spend any time helping me. You didn't spend any of that time actually helping me. You spent all of that time showing that you were going to go out of your way not to understand. That if I tell you something is harmful and you acknowledge that it's harmful, that you're literally going to do it immediately after saying that. That you're immediately, at that point, I have no choice but to believe you're doing it on purpose. I have no choice at that point but to believe that you are intentionally harming me because you have acknowledged that it's harmful and you continue doing it. You have acknowledged that we need to work on looking at evidence, that you can sit down next to me. It's whether I'm in here with you or whether I'm in there in an office with you. If you are going to OCD off on a bunch of other stuff, all of your special projects that you said that you were going to look at evidence before jumping on all of this stuff. And now the situation is your help has prevented me from getting help from others. And then the number of these people that have told me about their drug addictions while they're supposedly trying to help me. And, you know, for example, with Dallas Richmond, I didn't know he was an alcoholic until I lived with him. And then, holy hell, it was exactly the same issue. Then there was Shannon Alvarado, another alcoholic. I didn't know she was an alcoholic until I got there. But then, holy hell, all of the issues that I had had with communications with both of those people beforehand made perfect sense. No wonder they don't have the capacity. Anybody who knows anything about alcoholism knows these things. These people didn't inform me that they were alcoholics. They didn't inform me that they're abusive alcoholics. I had to find that out from being there. Dallas Richmond isn't really all that abusive. He's nonchalant. He's pretty laid back. But Harley's abusive as fuck. And of course, Dallas gets sick and tired of people at work bitching at him about having the crazy guy at his house. Dallas isn't going to take the time to look at this stuff either. He's let me know that repeatedly. And people in Chapel, Nebraska, like the cops, for example, wanted to repeatedly say things to me like, why don't you ask Dallas Richmond? I have. How does Dallas Richmond react when I have to call the cops? He stays inside, puts on his headphones, and plays fucking video games. That's what he does. What did this feller do when we were finally got him to understand? And he said, yes, I will look at that evidence tonight and then we will turn it in tomorrow. Okay. Well, he didn't do that at night. We had to redo the agreement because he was making a bunch of suggestions. He'd agreed not to do that anymore. But he was going to do it the next day. And he was insistent on the copies thing. The copies that he was going to make, finally, when we went to go pick up all of these copies that I actually paid for, I'm willing to pay for this. I'm willing to pay professionals for their time and their duty I'm willing to pay for that because all of this extra roadblocks that other people want to put in there, I don't need you to do that shit. Once we got the money, the situation changed. I can spend the money to pay these professionals. But even with that money, it doesn't make any difference if I don't have a friend or family member to look at the evidence instead of trying to tell me what all this other shit that I should be spending my money on. You should get this, you should get that. Sean, how about this? How about that? How about stop? How about stop doing exactly the same thing that everybody else does that prevents them from looking at evidence? You got tunnel vision. We're 2 hours and 14 minutes into me doing what I have to do to try to fucking process all of this. Because I don't have a quiet room that I can go to defragment from all of this. I don't have a friend that I can go to talk to about all of this. All I can do is go to fucking YouTube. These people have shown loud and clear that if I go to them about an issue, it's not going to be resolved. They're not going to take it seriously. They're not going to do something right now, which is literally what my paperwork says to do. Why are the police treating me like shit? Because I didn't go to them right away. Meanwhile, phone call after phone call shows that I did go to them right away. They pawned me off on others because I didn't have a friend or family member present, because people wanted to talk in circles because they didn't actually want to help, or they wanted to offer help that was completely useless. After Aaron didn't find out anything about what was going on, or the fact that the police wouldn't allow me to show clips of any of this abuse. They wouldn't accept audio files. The excuse from David Martinez was that they don't know if that's Andrew Olnez. They can't prove it's Andrew Olnez. Actually, you can. Then I try to tell folks, hey, you're being victimized by the same people as me. I know, because every time I come up to you to ask you for help, instead of helping me, you want to tell me about how they're doing the same thing to you. All right, well then let's turn it in together. If you're not going to turn it in, don't fucking tell me. Because all you're doing is fucking whining. If you're not going to show me any fucking evidence of what you're going through, then stop interrupting me who has evidence. Stop making it about you. This guy showed that he's literally going to do all of those things anyway. No matter what, I just have to let him do his own thing, which is why yesterday I had to let him do his own thing. Fine, we'll do it your way. Well, that just resulted in nothing getting accomplished except for the people that I paid to do work. At least while I was down at the thrift store, I was able to get some things that I could repair the tent with. I already had stuff to fucking repair the tent with. It's in storage. Which he's said at least half a dozen times, and we've set it up for him to take me to storage, and we never go to storage because that would help me with my stuff instead of him being able to say, oh, well, I did it. I don't care about your fucking accomplishment. I don't care about you getting to feel like you did something accomplished anymore. You're not helping me with what you said you would. You're again pushing all of this other stuff. And today I have to try to find another place to live. I can't continue to be hounded by somebody who is doing more harm than good, and at this point intentionally doing more harm than good. Regardless of your intentions, I don't need you to repeatedly interrupt me to tell me your intentions. I need you to listen to understand why it's harmful. When you acknowledge that you understand that it's harmful and you would do it again, you are betraying my trust. That goes from making a mistake because you didn't know any better to you know better, but you're just being a pushy asshole.